Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman, and yes, I am your host. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. Well, Christmas is gone and Hanukkah has just begun, and families have been gathered around tables, just having a grand old time. We had a reunion on Christmas Eve, and it was wonderful to see all the relatives and family that I don't see all year. And of course, last night, I attended a wonderful Christmas night party and saw all the people who I really enjoy on Christmas night. It was just a marvelous experience. And, you might say, as the old expression goes, it warmed the cockles of my heart. And then I read this morning's news about Tom Homan, who has been appointed by Donald Trump to be the Border Czar. He says he's going to bring back family detentions. That's right, family detentions, separating parents and children. And you may remember that in the first Trump term, 4,000 families were separated. And of course, the other great thing about Tom Homan is he opposes sanctuary cities. Now, I want to just express the view that I have about 2 points of view. When John F. Kennedy was in office, he began writing a book describing the nation of immigrants, what America was, a mixture of people from all over the place. And one of the things that made America so exceptional is that we brought families together. A lot of people came to this country to be reunited with their families. And indeed, a lot of people remember the days when we welcomed family members. Indeed, do you remember in those days that if you wanted to get into the United States legally, you could apply for family reunification? It was a wonderful system. But something has gone amiss. The question of illegal immigration has overwhelmed so many in this nation. And that's legitimate because I believe in legal immigration. And I believe that if people come into this country illegally, there has to be a way for them to achieve legal status. Oh, I know you're saying, but John, we don't have room. I'll tell you what we don't have room for. We don't have room for separating families. Do you remember the days when we had stories reported by all the major networks about families being split apart because the Immigration and Naturalization Service was separating parents from children? I can think of nothing more cruel than the separation of parents and children. Oh, I know that people come into this country illegally, and we don't approve of that. No one does. But what you do want to reflect on is whether or not we can do this with some sense of a heart. Now, personally, if you're going to come into this country illegally and you're bringing children with you and you are captured, I don't think parents should be separated from children. Do you remember when you were a kid and the trauma you felt? Listen, I'll tell you an embarrassing story, but maybe not so embarrassing. Maybe it was typical. On my first day of kindergarten, my mother came and dropped me off, but she stayed because I insisted that she stay, because I was attached to my mother. And I would suggest to you she stayed for almost a full week. And then it was time for separation. But the great thing was that I knew that at the end of the day, my mommy would be there. That's right. I understood that. Can you imagine children separated from their parents who have no idea whether they'll ever see their parents again? All right, I know somebody out there is saying, John, you're a bleeding heart liberal. No, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal, but I am somebody who has a heart. And that means we have to think seriously about what Tom Homan is going to implement as a border policy, as he is the border czar. In stark contrast, I would point out to Kamala Harris, who was never the border czar. Never. Remember, her job was to talk with those nations from which most of the people coming across the border in the South came from. And she did that. And we all know that this desire to come to the United States, to have great lives, to, well, frankly, make sure that your children will have better lives, is what drives most people to come here. So Tom Homan is going to be the Border Czar. His record in the Trump first term, frankly, disturbed me profoundly. This issue of what we do with new immigrants and with people who come here legally and illegally, and, well, frankly, the question of mass roundups. Homan and other people in the Trump administration are committed to the idea that there will be mass deportations of people. Now, you know what that means. The minute you talk about mass deportations, you talk about a lot of people who are swept up who shouldn't be swept up. Indeed, the advice of those in the question dealing with these subjects is that people who are of Spanish heritage, Mexican heritage, Central American heritage, carry your papers with you. Make sure that everything is in order. So if you're stopped, you are able to prove who you are. I'm sorry that we've come to this. I believe very strongly in America and in the vision of America. Remember what's written on the base of the Statue of Liberty by Emma Lazarus, who was herself an immigrant? Give us your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That is the American dream. Deportation is not part of the American dream. Controlling our borders is part of the American dream. We can do it all if we do it with care. So we'll be watching what Tom Homan, the Border Czar, does and how he does it. Will it make a difference to Americans? Well, as we have celebrated Christmas and now we celebrate Hanukkah, let us remember what it means for us to be able to gather around the table with our families. I think it's an important lesson. After all, that's the United States of America, the nation that welcomes people and that encourages families to be together. That's what the holiday is all about, isn't it? I am John Rothman, and I want to thank you for listening to another episode of Around the Political World. Make sure to tune in for another episode tomorrow, but I also want to know your thoughts, your feelings on the show. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, share an episode with a friend or colleague, and frankly, I love getting your comments. And please do submit them to Facebook or to email that I have. I love hearing from you. And I want to say a special thank you to Gogo Zoger. I want to appreciate all the good work she does to make sure that this podcast is up and running every single day. All right, that's it. I'll be back tomorrow right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.